I do this because when I was accused of having a Latino agenda by a white male editor who was my editor at NPR, and you know when somebody says, well, you have an agenda, and this was the 90s, I was like, what? And I had a great retort, thank God, because most of the time when we're said these things, these microaggressions, and I was like, well, then you must have a white male agenda. And he was like, it's not the same thing. And I was like, yes, it is. But then I went and I thought about, well, so what is my agenda? Do I have an agenda? It's not a Latino agenda. I have an agenda that I want people to feel things. I want people to feel. I want to have that feeling that I had when I saw Ed Bradley on the front lines in Vietnam reporting that I could feel his heart somehow. Certainly Bill Moyers, when he was sitting at the CBS Evening News and giving his commentary, I could feel his heart. So I decided that, yeah, that was my agenda, that I didn't have a problem creating journalism that was going to touch you so hard that you would feel something and that you wouldn't forget that. I do this because now we all know that sending a Christmas card to a source who's going to spend the rest of his life in prison is actually not an act of a lack of objectivity or a lack of or a lack of being able to be fair. It's actually, sending a Christmas card is one of the many things, the tools that we have in our tool belt as journalists, right? Actually, compassion. Now, I don't know, I actually cared about this young man who I met, whose name is Suave. He's now very famous, right? So Suave ends up winning the Pulitzer last year. But what we did with Suave was that my team, because I said, here, I have years of conversations, what is this? And my team came back and they said, what it is a relationship between a source and a journalist and his story, but as a result, you're not going to produce this. And I was like, bet. And I pulled out and let my team of producers work on that, and we went straight into the conversation about, well, what happens if you develop a relationship with a source? In other words, what we do at Futuro Media is we practice radical transparency and honesty. We don't want to pull the wool over your eyes. We want you to understand. And honestly, if you didn't see the video of me winning the Pulitzer, where I looked completely shocked, it's because I was completely shocked. I didn't even know that my team had submitted. So the last thing I was expecting was to win a Pulitzer, and it's a beautiful thing, honestly. It was, I know, I'm just like, it's like fabulous, because it is a recognition of all of the decades of work. And by the way, there were many times in those decades of work when I was told, even by my own colleagues, at my own company that I formed, right? You too? It was kind of like, Suave, what's this story? Who is this guy? Because I was the one that was talking to him. I was the one that was going to prison. I was the one who was in touch. For everybody else, he was just a distracting phone call. Which is why you should never give up on a story, right? Which is why we as journalists need to have that support to keep us in that capacity to keep a relationship going for 30-something years. Now Suave is out. But you should still listen to the podcast because it's very dramatic.